Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is said to have many different connections and all these different callbacks to the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy era as a way in order to really move the characters of Rey and Kylo Ren forward from start to finish of Episode 9. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. So I think that's one of the more interesting aspects of this film, right? Is exactly what are the interactions between both Rey and Kylo Ren going to be like visually on the big screen once this movie hits theaters. Again, like I've always said before in the past, it's all a matter of how it's going to be written and executed onto the big screen that will determine exactly how the acting is going to be, how the scenes flow from start to finish, so I cannot wait to see how JJ is actually going to handle all of this. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and when it all comes down to one of the concept art descriptions, this is where things begin to get very intense for Episode 9. Now, specifically, shot descriptions consisting of both Rey and Kylo Ren engaging in a lightsaber duel on the battlefield of the First Order, where it's described that Rey uses the Force Repulse technique, causing a large shockwave within the catacombs that Rey and Kylo eventually fight in. It said one of the complex moments for Kylo and Rey involve a saber duel through a series of tight tunnels before they eventually make their way to the battlefield again, where they eventually lock blades together where the environment around them begins to shift. It said that eventually Kylo and Rey begin to fight on the very top of Darth Vader's castle on Mustafar, giving a wide and vivid view of Mustafar and the lava flowing over the planet's surface. It said that during this sequence, a revised track of Duel of the Fates is planned to play over the sequence to add in dramatic moments for the audience. The next describes one of the scenes where Kylo kicks Rey where she drops her saber and is hanging off the ledge of Vader's castle, where she is described to jump up in mid-air and uses the force pull technique to grab her saber back again and attempts to strike Kylo's torso area, but misses. The scene is said to parallel when Kenobi jumps off the ledge and up into the air against Maul, before Maul's defeat. Eventually, it's described that the environment around them begins to flicker, where they are now fighting back on the battlefield of the First Order. So let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, the flash fights in this movie really seem to be quite a controversial piece of the fans around the world. It really is, because I've noticed a lot of mixed reactions on whether or not, the flash fights really are going to be a good idea for a Star Wars film, let alone for the final film of the Skywalker saga. So basically, in case you guys are just tuning in right now, flash fights are a mixture of flash forwards, flashbacks, the Force bond, and throwing in a lightsaber duel in the mix. It's kind of like imagining Rey during her time in The Force Awakens going through that Force back vision and meeting Kylo Ren, experiencing the same exact thing, where both of their experiences basically link up to each other, and they're fighting in different environments and or the same exact environment that takes place on a different world and or area in the Star Wars galaxy. So that's a very interesting take by J.J. Abrams, in my opinion. I think it's the best way in order to revisit the old worlds, as well as, giving us a nice trip down memory lane. It also lines directly up with this movie having the most planets out of every single Star Wars film in the franchise's history. It's very likely that a lot of those planets are going to be within these flash fights, as we have heard that Mustafar, Tatooine, Naboo, and even Coruscant, and a whole lot more are going to be a part of these flash fight duels. So what I like about this, though, is that this is a moment in which Rey and Kylo are fighting on top of the Darth Vader castle on Mustafar, on the very top. Now, this sounds like something similar to what we saw in The Lion King. I'm going to go ahead and say that Disney was inspired by this. For some reason, I don't know why, but it reminds me of The Lion King, between both Scar and Mufasa fighting on, or should I say Simba, fighting on Pride Rock. It somewhat reminds me of that, where we have, of course, Simba hanging on the ledge, now we have Rey hanging on the ledge. I don't know if it's just a coincidence, but it seems like that they were inspired by The Lion King. But anyways, I move on. So the other piece that I do want to go over is how that particular sequence in which Rey was hanging on the edge, and she jumps up in mid-air, grabs the saber by use of the force pull technique, that's all said to be a direct parallel to what Obi-Wan Kenobi did against Maul. You guys may recall that in Episode 1, Obi-Wan was also hanging out on the ledge. He eventually was able to jump up in mid-air, grab his saber, and strike Darth Maul into two pieces. Very interesting, I gotta say, because we do know that these movies are all about you know, poetry, it's like it rhymes and all these different parallels. I like that idea and how they're keeping that alive in this movie, and that is exactly what George Lucas and his vision really is for Star Wars. And I think that's one of the more fun things about these movies, is that sometimes you can see these parallels without even noticing them, and you later, you know, on years and years later, see the differences or see the similarities, right? So I really also want to go over the last piece in the very beginning, how they fight through the catacombs on, or should I say underneath the First Order battlefield itself. There are catacombs, there are going to be trenches, so it's going to be very much like World War I, where you have all these trenches that are laid out throughout the battlefield itself. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below, let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.